Hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, the Black Business School. I am I am up this morning, and I'm thinking about some things that I saw in the media today. Last night, I want you guys to know I went to go see the new Jordan Peele movie. It's called Us, and I did a review on it on drboycetv.com, and the film is good. I think you guys are going to like it. I think you guys should go check it out. I think you should support the brother in his filmmaking endeavors. He's a brilliant filmmaker, and he came out of these YouTube streets. So super proud of him. I think it's pretty awesome that he's he's doing the things he's doing right now. And also, just so you know, his Thursday night preview revenue or whatever they call it, that's the benchmark for whether your film's successful is, how well it did financially. He did really well. He actually almost set a record. And was it scary? I would say that it wasn't scary. That's one thing I'll say. So if you're looking for something that's going to just scare the shit out of you, this movie won't do it. But it will, it's visually appealing. It's cinematically solid. You know what I mean? Like he'd get an A in film class. In a way, it reminds me a little bit of M. Night Shyamalan. The only difference with M. Night Shyamalan is that M. Night Shyamalan, most of his movies suck. Jordan Peele's movies don't suck, but in terms of being visually appealing and having a really good core concept, I feel that Jordan Peele is up there with M. Night Shyamalan, which actually he's beyond M. Night Shyamalan. I don't even know why the guy gets so much credit and gets to keep making bad movies. But anyway, are we talking about Us, Sean? Yes, we are. We're talking about Us. And I just realized this morning, I was like, oh, us, US. He's talking about America. This is America, right? I think that's what so I don't think the title Us was an accident, right? Now, do me a favor as we get started on this conversation. Could you please hit the thumbs up button or the share button or the subscribe button? If you're on Instagram, I don't know if you guys can like gram at me, tweet at me, or whatever it is, but do something so we can strengthen the platform. We're pushing intelligent Black media because we believe Black folks should have our ability to shape our own narrative. So because of this, we really need your help. So it would be very, very helpful if you would tweet at us. And if you're part of the tribe and on the list and everything else, like we send out free stuff all the time. And so I guarantee you hanging out with us is going to make your life better, not make it worse. Also, if you're on Twitter, please retweet. And I'm actually going to send out a quick text message to everybody that's on the text list. So if you're on the text list already, you're going to get a text telling you that I'm live, but you already know that obviously because you're here. If you want to be on the text list, just open up your phone, type in Boyce, Boyce, and text that to 31996, 31996. So if you text Boyce to 31996, you'll get a text alert when I go live. So give me 1 second. Let me, while I do that, please hit the thumbs up button while I send out the text message real quick. Okay. Now, what am I going to talk about? I want to talk about, these comments that Barbra Streisand made about Michael Jackson. I don't know anything about Barbra Streisand other than the fact that she's a famous white lady with a big nose. And I'm sure she would agree her nose is big. I do know that Michael Jackson, I guess, sticking with his proclivity to want to hang out with white people more than Black people. And maybe that's just what happens. Maybe you become famous and you don't want to be around Black people anymore that much. I mean, not to say Michael didn't hang out with Black people though entirely. I mean, he was actually more in tune with the Black experience than most of the Hollywood celebrities. A lot of them just disconnect completely. But I ain't gonna lie to you. I mean, tell me if you ever wondered about this. I never understood when I would see people like Bill Cosby, OJ, Michael Jackson. I never understood why they were always surrounded by people who were not Black. I just never understood that. I always felt like they forgot that they were Black, like that somehow being rich means you're not Black anymore. And which is a very dangerous way to see the world. You always Black, especially when the shit hits the fan. When the shit hits the fan, the shit's gonna fly in your face because you're Black. And I couldn't understand it, because I'm gonna tell you the truth. Even back in the day when your boy, even back in the day when Michael Jackson was not seen in the light that he's seen now, I will confess, like toward the end of his life, he was seen as a kind of a very talented but very troubled, almost like a weirdo kind of person. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, come on, tell me. Let's just be honest. I mean, I ain't trying to diss the dead or nothing, but tell me y'all didn't think Michael was a little bit weird, in the '90s. Before that time, I remember as a kid, you know, I would have gave anything to hang out with Michael Jackson. I remember when your boy, what's his name, Alfonso Ribeiro got y'all. Anybody remember when Alfonso got that Pepsi commercial? He plays Carlton. He played Carlton on the Fresh Prince. He got that Pepsi commercial where he was doing the Michael Jackson dance. I remember thinking that I would love to be in his place. Like I would love to be in his shoes. Like um, I would love to be on that commercial. But the thing was, if you looked at the people Michael hung out with, the kids that were coming to Neverland and getting to play at the ranch, they were all little white kids. And I was like, what is this thing about little white kids? And I still think that was very weird. It does not sit right with me. But at the same time, there is a factual element to the life of Michael Jackson that the media tends to ignore. The media is not paying attention to, the realities of Michael Jackson in terms of what actually happened during his life. When it comes to Black men, they don't know the difference between what you believe and what you actually have proven in the court of law. They don't know. With a Black man, there is no such thing as innocent till proven guilty. There is no such thing as being acquitted or exonerated. If white folks think you did it, then they're gonna act like you did it. Because at the end of the day, they kind of know in their mind, like, look, oh, you guys believe these rules, like you believe that these procedures actually matter. No, we created this shit. It's like your mama says, like, I brought you in this world, I could take you out. So they look at you, they're like, well, we created this whole system. So if we decide that it's going to be null and void temporarily, we're going to do that. We're going to unplug the electricity from the wall and just shut this shit down for a minute because we think your Black ass is guilty. We have a 400-year history of extensive lynch mob-like behavior when it comes to Black men. And this is not new. This is something that's been going on for hundreds of years. And if we decide to apply it, we're going to apply it. I mean, you guys got to remember, a lot of the lynchings didn't just happen with, random innocent Black people. They came to Black people that, were perceived to be guilty sometimes, but the problem was justice was denied because you're not supposed to just go lynch somebody when you get mad at them. You're supposed to actually give them a trial and all that. So with Michael Jackson, and to some extent, honestly, even the R. Kelly thing, even though I don't feel as strongly about that, because I've always had issues with R. Kelly. You're seeing lynch mob mentalities or Bill Cosby. You're seeing where the laws are being bent. The laws are being bent so that white folks can get the justice that they believe they deserve, and that comes with a huge sort of morality-based undertone that says, we're good people and you're not good people. So we're going to persecute you as if you are the devil. Because we know, if you really, and again, even the use of Black, figurines like Gayle King or Oprah, Sambos that are on TV to pursue a white agenda. I mean, think about this. Oprah can't say and Gayle can't say like, oh, well, the reason that we're doing all this is because we want to, protect the victims. Because that's not what they're doing, right? If they were truly trying to protect victims, they would be in Hollywood going after these massive pedophile rings that people like myself have been talking about since forever, right? But white media, one way white media or white folks remind you that Blackness is nothingness is that they only hear you when they want to hear you. You only exist when they want you to exist. You only exist when, like I was watching this documentary, and I said to Dr. Alicia, my significant other, I said, babe, did you notice that the only time Black people come up in this documentary is when there's like hip hop music being played, or when there's like a secretary or a servant in the room? It was a Silicon Valley documentary. I said, otherwise, look at that room. There's 200 people in this room. Do you see one Black face in this room? It was all about that crazy white lady who created Theranos. It's a really good documentary called The Inventor. And I said, but notice this, Black people only kind of appear when they feel like there's a place for you, right? But when they don't feel like you have a place in the conversation, they ignore you. You don't exist. Almost like children. You ever see that where when grown folks is talking, the children, they just ignore the children, and the baby will be like, mama, daddy, right? And then, and the kid, and they'll be like, they just won't even, they won't even acknowledge the child to even say like, be quiet, because they're talking about something that's like adult or intelligent or important. Well, white people do that to you as black people. That's why they keep you as children. And how do they do that? Well, pay attention in media. Look in media. I want you to pay attention. Oprah and Gayle are with their white friends, and they're all sort of, shaping this narrative that says, we want to protect victims, we want to go get predators, so we're going to go get R. Kelly and Michael Jackson, right? The reason that that they're being used to go get R. Kelly and Michael Jackson is because they are black. If R. Kelly and Michael Jackson were not black, not only would the media not be going after them, but they also would not be using Oprah and Gayle. Oprah and Gayle are pretty much Negro facilitators that are being used as tools to go accomplish a goal. And there's a big reward for that. Gayle just got a multi-million-dollar contract with CBS, so they pay black people well to do their dirty work for them. Same thing with Oprah. Oprah has been paid billions of dollars for what Dr. Claude Anderson refers to as meritorious manumission, which is a reward that black people get for taking down other black people, for protecting white people. Now pay attention. Now, here's where your blackness is severely minimized. Now, simultaneously, while Oprah and Gayle are being utilized to go after the the big bad villains that have been hoisted up to the world as terrible people, which again, I'm not here to defend R. Kelly or Michael Jackson, honestly, because I could give two shits about either one of these guys, to be honest. I ain't gonna lie, I just don't care that much. But while this is happening, there are thousands of people online, thousands of people like me, who have pretty big platforms. I mean, I have hundreds of thousands of subscribers who are saying, hey, wait a minute. Did you know that in Hollywood, there's a massive pedophile ring in Hollywood? Corey, what's his face? Corey Feldman has been talking about this. He made a documentary called something like Something Out Loud or Hidden in Plain Sight, or I can't remember what it's called, but something like that, where basically he documents that they're molesting children in Hollywood on a vast, massive scale, that they have, hundreds of kids that are just literally being pulled through the pedophile rings like chickens being driven to an open secret. Thank you. That's what it's called. It's called an open secret. They're being literally just delivered by the truckload, like KFC chickens delivered to a factory, for slaughter. These children are being delivered through this Hollywood ecosystem where they go out to Nebraska and Idaho or Southside Chicago and look for parents that are desperate for their children to become famous. They want their kids to become stars. So they say, okay, we'll make your child a star because your child is awfully cute, which is very convenient for the child molesters, right? Because they like the cute little kids, right? That's what they do. And they ship those kids out to LA. They form relationships with them. They get the trust of the parents, and they're molesting the kids by the boatload. Which really makes for a far more interesting documentary than the one about R. Kelly, where they were pretty much telling us things that we already knew. Like, we already knew about Aaliyah. Like, tell me, raise your hand, tell me, make a comment, let yes or no. How many of y'all knew about Aaliyah before the R. Kelly documentary? How many of y'all knew that R. Kelly married Aaliyah when she was 15, or knew the story, the rumors, all that? How many of y'all knew that shit? Tell me if you knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew that shit. Come on, man. You had to be under a rock to not know that. How many of y'all knew, yes or no, how many of y'all knew about the sex tape from 2003, right? How many of y'all knew about the documentary comes out in 2019. They're bringing up shit that came out before a lot of your children were born. I know adults who were not even born, who were infants when the R. Kelly sex tape came out, who weren't even born yet when he married Aaliyah, right? Like, seriously, so how many of y'all knew R. Kelly had a reputation and there was a lot of proof that R. Kelly, had messed with underage girls? Like this is common knowledge. Why y'all it's weird. Like, think about this. In both the Michael Jackson and R. Kelly cases, the stupidity of it all is that they literally were digging up old shit. They're digging up dead people. Like, they're digging up Michael Jackson, a man who died a decade ago. God damn, like, the motherfucker died a decade ago. I'm just thinking about this. Like, this is my honest reaction. I'm literally thinking about this. He died in 2009. Like, he died a decade ago, and you're bringing him up like he's Chester the molester right down the block. Like he's gonna molest a child tomorrow if we don't put a stop to this. Like, you can't molest children when you're dead. You can't. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just processing this, right? So You got white men molesting children right now. There's some raggedy ass white man out in Hollywood right now who is waking up this morning with a naked 10-year-old in his bed right now, this morning. They eating scrambled eggs and bacon right now. And you ain't got nothing to say about that, Oprah and Gayle. Nothing. But you're digging up a dead black man to talk about stuff that he allegedly did 30 years ago. And you're also digging up R. Kelly stories that everybody already knows. You're digging up, I mean, this shows you the lengths to which they will contort themselves to become whatever their masters want them to be, right? Because I believe Oprah and Gayle are intelligent people to a point, and I'm sure that even they are sitting there thinking, like, gosh, I don't really. If you ask them, okay, I want you to bet me money, Oprah, bet me $100 million that by doing this documentary, you are on child predatory behavior in this country, that you're really saving children from being harmed. Like really bet me $100 million that there are thousands of children that will be safe now because you did this interview with the Michael Jackson accuser. I don't think Oprah would make that bet, because the reality is that you're walking right past. It's like, this is the nature of when they talk about, somebody asked, do I read the comments? Yes, I do read the comments, but I don't respond to all of them because it takes me off my train of thought. So there's no disrespect. It's just, if I start reading comments, I'll start flying all over the place. And y'all already know I'm like undiagnosed ADHD anyway. So I got to stay focused sometimes. I ain't even gonna lie. But because there's so much to talk about, and also my brain is always active and it's always going, it's like, oh, well, what about this? What about that? What about that? Like, literally. So I don't want to do that to y'all. So that's why I stay focused. I just want y'all to know that. But, but I think that Oprah and Gayle, even they know that they're not really protecting anybody. I mean, they're kind of doing what the police do, right? When people talk about racial profiling is not a simple idea, in the sense that, when black people are being profiled and unjustly arrested, unjustly incarcerated, they're not unjustly arresting and incarcerating random black people on the street who didn't do anything. They're unjustly incarcerating typically the people most likely to have a crime pinned on them or whatever with no evidence are people that have already committed a crime. These are people that already have suspicion cast upon them. And so it's easier because they're easier targets. They're vulnerable targets, right? So when you talk, what the problem is with racial profiling is they'll walk past 100 white people who are committing crimes to get to that one black person who may have committed a crime as well. Even that's unjust. Even if the black person did commit a crime, right? Even if a black man gets busted for carrying cocaine in his pocket, we know that he broke the law. That's not the issue. The issue is, why did you walk past 100 white people with cocaine in their pocket to get to that black man? Do you follow me? Tell me if you follow what I'm saying here. This isn't a debate this is a conversation for intelligent black people. That's why I remind you guys, this is my platform's for intelligent black people, not for coons and not for idiots. Seriously, do you follow what I'm saying? So even a person who committed a crime can still be served an injustice, right? So even if Michael Jackson, this is why I tell you guys, don't feel like you got to go out here and act like R. Kelly never touched anybody, because I believe he did. Don't feel like you got to go out here and act like Michael Jackson never molested those kids. Come on, let's be real. Most of y'all probably wouldn't let Michael Jackson babysit your children, even though the majority of you voted that you believe that he's innocent. I know he's definitely not guilty, because that went to the court of law. FBI investigated and they came up with nothing, right? So that does mean something, right? But still, really, are you really willing? Like, if somebody said, well, put it on your dead grandmother, put your hand on the Bible and put it on your mama, that Michael Jackson never ever touched a child, would you take that? Tell me yes or no. Yes or no. Would you take that bet or that gamble? That on your dead grandmama and on your hand on the Bible. Bet every penny you have, 100. Let's say it was $100,000 bet. Would you bet $100,000 that Michael Jackson never ever touched a child? Okay, I see some yeses in here. Okay, Michael says yes. Okay, Alicia says, yes, I follow you. Okay, Vanita says no. Right. So it's your right to believe what you're going to believe. But here's one thing that's fundamentally true. Even if Michael Jackson is or is not guilty of this, is that there's clearly an injustice here. There's clearly a racial bias here. Tell me this, yes or no. Do you think that the Michael Jackson documentary would have been done if Michael Jackson had been white? Yes or no? Do you think, because if you say yes, then I got to challenge you and say, well, what about Elvis Presley? He's a dead man who married. I mean, Priscilla, what's her face, was 14. She talks about it. She liked it. She was happy to be 14 dating Elvis, right, or whatever age she was. Yeah, I think she was 14, and he gave her pills. Like she was 14. He drugged and raped her, and ain't nobody mentioning Elvis's name anywhere in the Bill Cosby conversation. Elvis's name does not come up once on white media. If that's not as clear of an indication of racism in this country, I don't know what is. I can't help you if your dumb ass really thinks that there's no racism in any of this, when I can point out that specific example and say, why is it that Elvis and Priscilla both openly talked about him drugging and raping her at the age of 14? And not one word is mentioned about him. He's still the icon that he was. Family's still making money. His estate's still making millions of dollars. Nobody's trying to mute Elvis, but yet you still want to go over to what happened allegedly with R. Kelly or Michael Jackson and act like that's the end of the world. Oprah and Gayle. I have not seen, I don't think I've ever heard the word Elvis come out of Oprah's mouth in a way that is not complimentary and flattering and hoist him up as an icon that people made him into. So I'm just trying to understand the contradiction here. To me, the only factor that plays out in this is one's white and one's black. So here's what. Do me a favor. Hit the thumbs up button. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I should tell you guys my name in case you don't know. We're talking today about not just the Michael Jackson stuff, but also Barbra Streisand's comments about Michael Jackson. And I want to lean into that a little bit more, but I feel like that was an important discussion to sort of talk about the background on all of this. So do me a favor, please hit that thumbs up button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you want to support the growth of intelligent Black media, we would appreciate you as a patron. We'd love to have your support on any level. I think Super Chat is on YouTube, so if you ever want to support in any way, you can also go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. Let's see. Somebody says, I think Boyce creeped out some women and he's trying to change the narrative. I don't really give a fuck about creeping people out. I have people that understand me and people that don't. And the people that don't understand me, I can't help them. I can't help increase their IQ. So I personally am not offended if people were creeped out by, my pursuit of the truth. I've always been a big believer in honest analysis of things. And I've also honestly it's become clearer to me over time. Remember, I'm a professor. I've had a PhD for 16 years. So, and I was really smart when I got my PhD. I was the smartest PhD student. So I'm not a dumb person. I'm smarter than everybody. Just, in fact, the smarter you get, the more educated you get, the dumber you realize you actually are. So I'm really a smart person who knows he's dumb. I know how dumb I am. And so the reason I feel sorry for some people is because they don't realize how dumb they are. They don't realize, how brainwashing works and how you're controlled by media, how you're lied to on a regular basis, how being Black means that you're being fed a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of myths about who you are and who white people are. And so when I break all that down and analyze it and lay it all out for the public, I already know some people are going to get it. Some people are going to say, oh, I hate you, you're an idiot, or you're sounding kind of rapey. I think somebody said, they said, you're sounding kind of rapey, Boyce. And I was like, what? You sound kind of racist. Like you're sounding rapey because you're trying to send Black men to prison unjustly and get them raped like hundreds of times. Like you're actually the one that's incredibly rapey right now, because you're basically fitting in with the white supremacist narrative that's been fed to us that Black people are evil and white people are good. That's not a narrative that I believe in. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to just tell you, I will probably, if you watch me long enough, I will probably confuse you at some point and offend you several times. And if you're not prepared for that, then you should probably be somewhere else. You should probably go to another YouTube channel or something like that. Now, and actually somebody mentioned this in the comments. I saw that. Yeah, a lot of people didn't even actually talk much about. Also, if you're really, again, just a little tidbit, a little side note, if you want to talk about bad things happening to young girls, I don't know if you guys know that actually a bunch of girls were raped at Oprah's school. I don't know if y'all know that. One of the headmasters was molesting a whole bunch of girls. They don't really talk about that much. Oprah kind of gets protected, I think, by media, but that is an interesting narrative. And I didn't see Oprah really doing much in terms of really trying to shine a light on that. But then again, though, that is what it is. Now, here's the thing about Barbra Streisand and Michael Jackson. Barbra Streisand made an interesting comment that some of which I agree with, some of which I don't. But one of the things that she said about Michael Jackson is she actually put some of the responsibility on the parents. And I'm gonna read what she said, and then I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna kind of give you an analysis and help you understand like why Streisand is right on at least part of this. She's right on at least part of it. So let me read. She says, they asked her about the documentary, and she said, "Oh, absolutely, that was too painful." And she says, she says his sexual needs were his sexual needs, coming from whatever childhood he has or whatever DNA he has. Um, that was a little bit of a weird statement. I don't see pedophilia as just a sexual need. It's not an innocent sexual need. It's one that does harm lots of young people, and we can't support that. Now, to her point, pedophilia is a mental illness, right? And the question, I think what's going to eventually happen over the next 50 years is they're going to talk about like, how do you deal with that mental illness? You have some people that are pedophiles and they kill themselves because they hate the fact that they're attracted to children. And I have a little bit of sympathy for what they're feeling, in the sense that I can't imagine what it would be like to wake up and to be attracted to a child the same way I'm attracted to a woman, right? Like, I know that when I see Dr. Alicia come in and she's got that sexy Black woman body and all those wonderful curves, that does something in me. That gets me, I'm like, yeah, look at that over there, right? Like, she got those things that only a Black woman usually has. And I can't imagine looking at a child and having that same reaction. I think that would scare me. That would probably make me hate myself, right? And so, to that extent, I wish that there was a drug. I wish there was a procedure. I wish there was something that we could do beyond just incarceration to get that out of people, so that they're not taking these frustrations out with children. That's the part that I think deserves a deeper discussion. I don't think we have that discussion because pedophilia is such a disgusting, scary thing that we just don't even want to talk about it, right? We don't even want to talk about it, right? Also, one part of it that people that I dare to mention is that, there is a difference between what R. Kelly is accused of doing and what Michael Jackson is accused of doing. As far as men dating women under 18, 15, 16, 17, if you go throughout history, that's been happening for thousands of years, right? And there are some countries to this day where, parents are happy if their 16-year-old daughter marries some older guy who's got a bunch of money. There are lots of 16-year-olds who would love to date an older person, 20, 25 years old, who's got a little money in their pocket. I know when I was 16, I used to work at Wendy's, and there was this lady there who I thought was the hottest woman in the world, and she happened to be 27. And believe me, I mean, I'm sure that if she had got with me like I wanted her to, I'm sure my mother would be screaming, "Oh my God, you raped my son." But I wouldn't be the one complaining. I would not have been filing that complaint. And years later, I don't think I'd be looking back at it and saying, "Oh my God, I was victimized and traumatized." I'd be thinking, yeah, I got really lucky, right? And so I think that when you look at, when you analyze, say, the R. Kelly scenario versus the Michael Jackson scenario, I do think those are different situations. But at the same time, it's not my job to really break all that down. And in fact, I don't want to even go into that too much further, because I don't want to make this a conversation about that. Now, one thing that Streisand mentioned that really got my attention was she said that she feels bad. Now, pay attention. Here's what she said about the parents. She said, "I feel bad for the children. I feel bad for him. I blame, I guess, the parents who would allow their children to sleep with him." So, of course, the internet went crazy. People got mad, like, "Barbra Streisand, how can you say that? What's wrong with you? Your comments are perplexing. You're a terrible person." Here, let me break this down. Let me tell you why she didn't speak nothing but the truth about what she said about the parents. When you say you blame the parents, you're not saying that I don't blame the predator. Assume, and let's not even, let's assume Michael Jackson was the predator. And again, there's no proof of that, right? There's no he wasn't convicted of any of this, right? But let's say that he was, and let's say that these parents agreed to send their children to a guy that may or may not do things that he shouldn't have done. At the very least, he's going to be sleeping with my 9-year-old in the bed. They're going to be sharing a bed together. I'm gonna send my child to go share a bed, my little 9-year-old boy, to my 9-year-old son, to another grown ass man that I barely know, so they can share a bed together, right? Are you really trying to tell me that I deserve no responsibility, no accountability whatsoever for what happens to that child? Are you telling me really that I'm just totally off the hook, that I can pretend to be an innocent victim, that I can just sit here and say, well, yeah, it could have happened to anybody's child? No, it could have happened to your child because you signed your child up to go to Hollywood and sleep in beds with grown-ass men, right? Like, you signed your child up for that. Like, so you're not a regular parent on the street. You know, I got an 8-year-old in the house. I got an 11-year-old in the house. I wouldn't be sending the 8-year-old to go sleep in the bed with a grown-ass man. And if I ever agreed to do that, I can't go on TV and say, oh my God, I was an innocent victim. Y'all would look at me like I was crazy. Crazy, right? So Streisand's 100% correct. I think that this is racial. The way a lot of white folks look at this is really racial. And it's racial in this way. I'm gonna give you another example that hopefully helps highlight the point I want to make here. Think about it like this. Imagine if you had a 16-year-old white girl who becomes a hooker, right? A 16-year-old white girl becomes a hooker. And how does she become a hooker? Let's say she is hungry in a restaurant, and a black man, a black pimp, comes up and starts sweet talking her. You know how the pimps do. Hey, baby, you know, you look beautiful. You know, I could take good care of you, baby. Yabba dabba do. You need to come live with me. You know how the pimps be talking fast and all that, right? So he drops the pimp game on her. And then he convinces her that the best way for her to do better for herself and to repay him is to go out on that street corner in a miniskirt, right? So he puts her on the corner in a miniskirt, and she starts making that money, right? We doing what pimps do, pimps and hoes. That's what we pimping and hoeing now. We making pimp hoe money, right? Now, imagine that, you know, the feds come in and they bust up the whole operation, and they come in and they arrest the hooker, they arrest the trick, they arrest the pimp, right? Now, is it possible for me, if I was the pimp, or if you have some black man who's the pimp in this situation, would it be possible for him to say, look, yeah, she was underage. Yeah, she got prostituted, but I deserve no accountability for what happened to her. That's between her and the man, the older man who was sleeping with her. The older man who's sleeping with her deserves all the accountability. I deserve no accountability as the pimp. Because if you think about it, when you send your child to go sleep in a bed with a grown-ass man, you're a sex trafficker. You're a motherfucking pimp. Let me make it clear. You are a pimp. You got parents, just like that pimp, pimping their kids to grown-ass men that they know want to sleep with their children. So in the first example with the pimp and the prostitute, you had the three players in this scene. You have the pimp, you have the prostitute, and you have the trick. Well, in the case of an R. Kelly, you got the parents, you got the kids, and you got the predator, right? Which one's the pimp? Which one's the prostitute? And which one's the trick? So are you willing to tell me that if somebody traffics another human being, whether they're trafficking their child or trafficking some little white girl on the street, that the trafficker themselves deserves no accountability for what happens to that child? Let's be clear. These parents that send their children to R. Kelly concerts and put them on stage with R. Kelly and send them home with R. Kelly and backstage or to the studio with R. Kelly, they are sex traffickers. Sex traffickers in our society deserve to be held accountable for trafficking the children that they're trafficking. So if you're going to tell me that the parents have no responsibility in what allegedly happened in the Michael Jackson or R. Kelly situation, I'll use R. Kelly since people are in more agreement on what happened with R. Kelly than they are with Michael Jackson. If you're going to tell me that the parents have no blame at all in any of this, then what you're basically saying is that if a young child is trafficked, that the trafficker deserves no blame in the whole trafficking process. Understand, pimping and hoeing can't happen without the pimp. It's hard unless somebody pimps themselves, right? But if it's a child ain't gonna, you can't accuse a child of pimping themselves, right? You can't do that, right? So how are you going to tell me that the pimp is not responsible for what happens in the whole trafficking situation? The pimp set all the shit up. Without the pimp, nothing happens. The pimp is the salesperson. The parent was the one who said, I want my child to be famous. Here, take my baby. Just make sure we taken care of. Make sure, R. Kelly, that you send in checks every month. Make sure that my daughter is singing on stage with you. Make sure that she's your protege, right? Compensate me, pay me. So I don't think it gets any clearer than that. I think that what Barbra Streisand said is accurate. I think that people are angry. They're angry about what she said because they're politicizing it. And when things get politicized, they want to make things very, very simple and clear. It's almost like when they started talking about Black men being killed by the cops, and nobody wanted to even address Black men being killed by other Black men. Like they almost felt like just by mentioning that you're undermining the goal of acting like every Black man that's killed in the hood was killed by a cop. I know several friends who've been killed, and none of them were killed by cops. Like, I'm not saying cops are good people. I'm not saying that at all. I've seen the good and the bad. But I'm trying to say, so you're telling me that the death of a Black man only matters if he's shot by a cop? Well, shit, if I die, I hope I get killed by a cop, because then at least somebody will give a fuck. If I get killed by a Black man, ain't nobody gonna care, right? Or if I get killed, from eating too many cheeseburgers and or get heart disease or diabetes or a stroke, ain't nobody gonna care. Nobody cares about any type of Black death unless that Black person was privileged enough to have been shot by a cop. Then suddenly it becomes a priority, right? Well, the same thing is true with this. Because they politicize, the whole Michael Jackson thing. They politicize the R. Kelly conversation. They want to isolate everything so that it's like 100% of the blame of 100% of what happened all belongs to R. Kelly. 100% of the blame of 100% of what happened, assuming he's guilty, would all belong to Michael Jackson, right? That's not true. You're talking about an ecosystem, and it takes at least 2, possibly 3 people to tangle within that ecosystem. Most people that have common sense looked at the R. Kelly situation like this. They were like, okay, there is some little girl in Chicago who doesn't have good parents, or maybe she has greedy parents, but she's maybe 15. She thinks she's growner than she is, like a lot of 15-year-olds. So R. Kelly rolls up in his Benz, and she's impressed by that. And she chooses to get in the car with R. Kelly. But because she's 15, we know that she's not capable of making rational, intelligent decisions all the time. So what really should have happened is there should have been some parent there stopping her from doing this, right? But because Chicago is a community where fathers have disappeared because of mass incarceration, and there aren't that many men to protect the daughters from the male predators, right? Little girls with really strong fathers were not being preyed upon by R. Kelly, right? Also, south in Chicago, you have parents that believe that fame is the most valuable thing in the world. So there are parents out there who would encourage their daughters to go date a man like an R. Kelly. There are parents out there who would take a payoff if R. Kelly is peeing on your daughter in a video, and you're sitting here thinking, well, I'm not going to make any money if he goes to jail, so I might as well take the money and then let it all go. That's why in that case where R. Kelly's on video, which I believe that was him, that's why he was exonerated, because I believe people got paid off, and people, decided, well, you know what, my daughter, she out here hoeing anyway. We might as well get something out of it, right? Like let's just be real. Like, that's what people were thinking. They're just like, well, I guess we might as well take the money. Now, the reality of it, though, is that not every parent would have taken that payoff. A lot of parents would say, take that money and shove it up your ass. But parents who think like that would never have even been in that situation anyway. You see, the politically incorrect conversation that I like to have the politically incorrect conversations, not the ones that tell you what you want to hear, but tell you what the truth is. And the politically incorrect version of that conversation is one that says that we can't pretend like all victims are the same, right? Like there is such a thing as discernment and intelligent decision making, so you don't even put yourself in a position to allow certain things to even happen to you, right? And so basically, most regular parents, like most of the parents in here, tell me if I'm right, tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Most of the parents in here watching right now, you wouldn't even be in that situation where R. Kelly's offering you money because he peed on your daughter in a video, because your daughter wouldn't have been around R. Kelly in the first place. You never would have even allowed that to happen, right? But again, when they're trying to isolate the enemy, they're trying to isolate, they're choosing one black man, you know, he's public enemy number one, he's the face of predatory behavior. They don't want to have those conversations because politics is not a space for complex and nuanced discussions or intelligent discussions. It's a space where everything's black and white. Everything's on or off switch. It's either this or that, you know, and I don't believe that. I believe that when you talk about the R. Kelly ecosystem, there is such a thing as an entire culture, an entire system, an entire way of thinking, group behavior that creates the scenarios under which an R. Kelly can thrive. Right, under which, you know, that creates a situation under which to this day, to this day, there are parents in the hood that would be happy, that would thank God, thank white Jesus and black Jesus, that R. Kelly even took the time to come to their house. There are black people right now in the hood that will be ecstatic that R. Kelly wanted to date their daughter. Like, and that's the part that's a little bit hard to kind of acknowledge and accept, but it's true. You know, so going back to Michael Jackson and Barbra Streisand, you know, I didn't agree with everything Streisand said. I wasn't comfortable like with the whole thing about his sexual preference and DNA and all that. Like I can't, you know, when it comes to children, I don't see that as a sexual preference. Although, just be careful though. We just know that in the next 50 years, what's going to probably come to the surface very slowly, but cautiously will be. They're going to start pushing. They're going to start, I think, pursuing agendas that relate to pedophilia within the gay community. There's a reason why a lot of those gay fashion designers dress their women up like 12-year-old boys. There's a reason why they want the women to not have titties, not have hips, not have ass. They want them to look like boys because they like boys. There's a lot of pedophilia happening in the gay community. But because Oprah, Gayle, and all of them are part of that gay mafia that exists in Hollywood, they're not touching that. They're not touching any of that. But a lot of young gay boys, you know, their first sexual experience is at the hands of, you know, of some 40-year-old man. The Ed Buck, you guys know about the Ed Buck situation. Ed Buck, he's a liberal. He was a big donor in the Democratic Party, and he was inviting all these young underage black boys to his house and injecting them with crystal meth and so he could have like freaky sex with them or whatever, right? And you look at his website, you know, he's like looking like a regular white guy with a dog who's like, you know, chanting the standard liberal talking points on immigration and the environment and feminism and LGBT, right? But what they don't talk about is that what's happening in that underbelly. That underbelly is that there's a lot of that gay pedophilia happening. And part of the reason that they want to sort of push this on the heterosexual black male is for two reasons. One, because heterosexual males are pretty much the enemy. Those are the ones being taken down by the Me Too movement. They're not taking down gay men. They're not taking down women. They're taking down heterosexual males. And then also the black man is an easy target, right? So in their mind, honestly, here's what I see as the agenda. By putting all the media attention and all the media energy on the heterosexual black male, they are taking attention off. They're diverting attention from gay white men. They're diverting attention from Hollywood pedophilia networks. They're diverting attention from all the shit that white people do, right? So at the end of the day, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is not something that's BS. I mean, I want you guys to tell me this. Tell me right now, if you know of any things that you've seen or heard or read or been around where there is some young gay black man who had his first sexual experience with a man that was over 18, like where when, you know, maybe he's exposed to it at the age of 13, exposed to sex at 12, 13 years old, and it's because of some older man. Tell me, I mean, I'd be willing to bet you a big percentage of the black boys in Atlanta right now, like Atlanta, black men in Atlanta have HIV like it ain't nothing, like it's a common cold. HIV is everywhere in Atlanta, so be very cautious about sex in general, but especially in Atlanta. There are a lot of those young black boys that have HIV, like it's nothing, like they don't even make a big deal out of it. They expect, like one guy, I spoke to one brother who told me that all of his friends have HIV. He just said, yeah, everybody has it. You just kind of know that everybody's got it, right? Well, part of the reason they're getting it is because when they're young, they're having their first experience with an older man who has fucked everything that moves. He's had sex with 300, 400 people, and and then things happen that way, right? So I'm just trying to tell y'all the truth. This is not a conspiracy. This is not me making things up. This is not me pulling things out of my ass. This is reality. And if you're a person that just believes that this nonsense that the black male is the biggest sexual predator on the planet, well, I mean, then you might as well just join the Klan, because they made a movie about that called Birth of a Nation over 100 years ago, where they basically said that the Klan is a good organization because they protect white women, innocent white women, from these black male sexual predators who are looking to rape everyone, right? So that image of the black male as the ultimate predator is not a new image. That's an image that's been perpetuated through all kinds of media for several hundred. Your favorite, please hit the thumbs up button. If you're on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the share button, like button, and subscribe button. Des says there's a brother on YouTube named Walter Hampton who makes videos about the gay scene in Atlanta. Yeah, I interviewed Walter Hampton. Walter had I interviewed him about 3 years ago, and he's from Canada. And Walter has a lot of interesting stories where he shares things that you don't hear about the gay scene in Atlanta, the gay scene in the penitentiary. He says, a lot of guys come out of the pen saying, I ain't never slept with no man. And basically, according to Walter, he says, I could have slept with every man in the prison, including the guards. Now, is that true? I don't know. But I know Walter has a lot of interesting stories. I mean, stories that would probably make you very nervous. But I respect the fact that at least he's honest about his experience, as a gay man, because I think that when you can shine light on what's actually happening in the world, it helps the world make a whole lot more sense to you, as opposed to people just telling you what you want to hear. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to go, guys. Do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, subscribe button, all that good stuff. Also, don't forget this podcast is actually on iTunes. So if you are on iTunes, you can look up my name, Boyce Watkins, and find us on iTunes. Also, text the word Boyce to 31996 if you want to get a text notification when I go live. Text BOYCE to 31996. And if you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. A little bit later today, I actually want to do another conversation on about I want to break down some of the stuff I've seen in terms of what's going on in the stock market, and also LeVar Ball. LeVar Ball had this interesting thing happen with his business, and I think it's worth talking about. So if you want to be notified and be a part of that, just text Boyce to 31996, and I'll send out a text notification when I go live again. All right, guys, have a good day. It was real, and thank you for putting up with my insanity. I know that some of the stuff I say sounds crazy, but believe me, it comes from a place of honesty, the honesty that I know, my truth in terms of what I'm seeing. And I know it probably doesn't add up right away, but just give it some thought. Be open-minded about it. I think it might help you actually gain a broader perspective. So take care, guys. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.